Hello and welcome, everyone. The NFL season is fast approaching, so over these next 9 days, we will be providing you with our predictions for the 2024-25 NFL season, and we're going to start off here with the AFC West. So, we'll start off with the Chiefs. Spoiler alert, I have them going 14-3. Ranking number 1 in the conference, getting that first round bye in the playoffs. They start out here red hot, going 5-0 against the Ravens, the Bengals, the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Saints, all before the bye. Right after the bye, though, they play the San Francisco 49ers, the team that they beat in the Super Bowl last year, and they're going to lose. That'll be their first loss. They'll come into this game against the Raiders. They'll come into it, their second divisional game of the year, with a 5-1 record, and they're going to win that. They're going to beat the Raiders, and they're going to win the next 5 after that against the Buccaneers, the Broncos, the Bills, the Panthers, and the Raiders. So with 5 games left against the Chargers, the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos, they've got some tough games, some easy division games, but nonetheless divisional games, and we all know how crazy that can go, and that might be a theme here throughout our predictions. As you'll see, the divisional games are probably going to be a little bit out there. At times you might see some upsets here and there with those divisional games. Nonetheless, here comes a divisional upset I got in Week 14. The Chargers upsetting the Chiefs here in Arrowhead. So the Chargers walk in after losing to the Chiefs in SoFi, return the favor. They walk into Arrowhead Stadium. They beat the Chiefs. Chiefs will then rebound against the Browns with a win and have to play the Texans here. Here's where their third loss comes in. I think the Texans are going to have a big year, and they're going to actually beat the Chiefs here. Chiefs will also be at home for this game too. And then they'll round off the season here with 2 easier wins. You got the Christmas game against the Steelers and then the Broncos game. We'll see what happens with Week 18. I think in this scenario that we played out, we predicted every game, the Chiefs actually had something to fight for because we got a lot of top-heavy teams in the AFC. But let's go through with our second-place team in the division. Put your guesses in now. We got the LA Chargers at 9-8, a big rebound year for them after picking number 6 in the draft, or 5, I should say. They got Joe Alt in the draft. They play the Raiders Week 1 at home. It's going to be a slow start for them after they win here against the Raiders. They're going to lose the next 4 games. They go into the bye at 3-1. After the bye, they lose again. They lose to the Broncos. So they're going to lose 4 games in a row before going to Arizona at 1-4. They're going to win that. They're going to come back home. Saints Week 8, they're going to win that. Then they kind of flip-flop back and forth with these AFC teams. They lose to the Browns, beat the Titans, lose to some AFC North guys in the Bengals and Ravens. You're going to see 2 wins back-to-back. Here's that upset I talked about in Week 14. They've beaten the Chiefs a week before. I haven't beaten the Falcons. So then we've got 4 games left. There is a chance to make the playoffs. They're going to have to win out here. And against the Buccaneers, they lose it. Now, I think this will be a very winnable game, and this will be very telling. If, this scenario, it's not going to play out how we think it will, most likely. But in this scenario, if it does happen, they beat the Buccaneers. I think they run the table here because they've got a pretty, I don't want to say easy schedule because you got the Chiefs there a week before. You got the Broncos. You got the Raiders in that last stretch. You got the Patriots with probably a better Drake May that you'll see, a better QB room. So it's going to be a telling end of the season. Can they beat those divisional opponents that might be easier, nonetheless divisional, that might know them? I got them winning out here the rest of the way after the Buccaneers lost. They beat the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Raiders. They end up 9-8 and barely missing the playoffs. So let's see how the other two teams shake out. I got the Broncos here at third place in the division. And you're saying, what? The Broncos at third? Well, wait till we get to the Raiders. Because these two teams, I don't have them being very good. Albeit, I will say, Bo Nix has looked great in the preseason. He really has. But we all know that the preseason doesn't always translate. Everyone's not trying their best, not playing all their starters. I have the Broncos losing the first 5 games of the season. They start 0-5 before they are at home against the Chargers. They beat the Chargers for their first win, lose the next week to the Saints, and then they beat the Panthers. So they're 2-6 right now, going into Week 9 with games against the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Falcons coming up. The Falcons might be a little better this year than people think. They're going to lose to the Chiefs and Ravens, of course, but then I have them sneaking out a win against the Falcons. That's their third win of the season. They got a couple games here. I have them losing a divisional game to the Raiders here, and then the Browns before a late bye in Week 14. Now, the season's over at this point, right? They've got 3 wins, but they got 4 games left. So this is a really developmental stage because they got some big games here. They've got the Colts. Anthony Richardson might be a little better this year coming off that injury. We'll see. It's the latter half of the year, so he might be rested up a little, maybe ready to go, or maybe still a little, it's his first season later. But you got the Colts, then you got the Chargers, Bengals, and Chiefs to end off the season. If they can put together some good wins here, I think that leaves the fans very happy going into next season with what they got in Bo Nix. And this will really tell, you get that bye week rest. It's a lot of go action up until, week 14. But I have them coming off of the bye, beating the Colts. They get an extra preparation. They get a win there. But then they're going to lose out to the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. And they're going to end up going 4-13. And I feel like they're probably right around there. I mean, they've probably got a good couple close games here, Maybe at most I would give them 7 wins, 6-7 wins. But I don't really think this is that talented of a roster, especially with a rookie QB coming in. So 4-13, they're definitely not making the playoffs. And they're 14th in the conference, so not the worst draft pick, but not the best. But that means the Raiders have to be worse than that. This is my last team here. I have the Raiders losing their first 4 games here. Chargers, Ravens, Panthers, and Browns. Yes, they lost to the Panthers. They just named their starting QB a little bit ago. It will be Gardner Minshew, and I actually like Gardner Minshew. But there's a lot of really good QBs in this league, and there's a lot of really good teams right now in this league. It's kind of evening out, really. I see their first win here in Week 5 over the Broncos before they lose a good stretch of games to go into their bye. A good 4 games to the Steelers, Rams, Chiefs, and Bengals that go into their bye in Week 10, sitting at 1, and that's 1-8 right there going into Week 10. So not very good. Coming off the bye, they're going to have another loss to the Dolphins. I don't think that's very surprising there. But then they're going to beat the Broncos again. They go 2-0 against the Broncos. I think you can really see that come to play home and away. They're going to lose the next 3 games to the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons. 3 really good opponents, actually. And then they're going to come back. They're going to get a win in Week 16. Last 3 games, they got the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Chargers. Again, this is kind of like some of those other teams you see. It's not as hard as that Broncos schedule. It's more along the lines of that Chargers schedule we talked about earlier. But they don't really have a young QB or young core. Like Brock Bowers, they got Jackson Powers-Johnson there, but no really developmental, key guys as a QB or someone you're really looking at. I think maybe you just want to watch Brock Bowers here. We'll see what happens with Devontae Adams after that start. I think they probably could trade him. But I'm going to have them beat the Jaguars. That'll be a surprise and upset there. But then lose the final 2 games to the Saints and Chargers. So that will put them at 3-14. And they will be 15th in the conference. So yes, there is a team worse than them with a better draft position. That will be coming up a little later in this series. Join us tomorrow for the NFC West. Thanks for listening. We'll talk soon.